Every time someone gets mad at me, or I'm in an argument and I want to defend myself or defend my idea, especially to close people and people that are very, very, they mean a lot to me. I end up in this super, super intense emotional moments in which I have no idea what to do with my emotions, and they usually last for long. Like, the thing can happen now, and then 2 hours later, I'm still feeling that emotion. And I was talking with some friends, and not everyone experiences life like this. And some people literally only feel the emotion once, and that's it. Some people kind of feed the emotion and end up feeling it for a long time, even for days. And some people are like me, who feel it for like a few hours, or maybe every time you think about it. So I looked up on how to not feed the emotion and how to not extend it for so long, and how to basically keep it in the moment, and then after that moment ends, you don't have to feel it anymore. Or even when you feel it in that moment, you're not feeling it constantly. Because that's another thing, the only reason you're feeling an emotion constantly and like you end up crying at some point, which is not bad, it's very good to end up crying, but like sometimes you just don't want to be crying in front of someone. How do you stop that emotion from growing so much? And how do you, basically, when you start realizing that it's in your body, how do you stop like not letting it take over your whole self, and like you not being able to say anything or do anything properly as if you were like an actual rational human being, like you are most of the time? One of the biggest reasons we have this problem is because we start and don't stop thinking about that thing that created the emotion in the first place. So usually you have an emotion, and then the cycle of an emotion is like 90 seconds. So basically, when something triggers that emotion, you have some hormones that are being released in your body. And that's usually like, I don't know, cortisol, which is the stress hormone, or like dopamine, which is for pleasure. And that whole process and like that lifetime of that hormone is about 90 seconds from the moment it got released to the moment you don't really feel it anymore, and it's not really in your body anymore, like intense, like spiked up. And if the emotion lasts longer than that, that means you are ruminating it with thought, and you're constantly thinking about the thing that caused the emotion, or somewhere along the lines of that emotion, or you're just in a negative or positive loop that makes you be happy or sad for extended periods of time. So basically, that means that basically if you let it just fade away, then it shouldn't be in your body for more than 2 minutes. That usually does not happen with us though, as human beings, because we constantly re-trigger that emotion, and we constantly are in this feedback loop in which we continuously extend our states. So for example, there's been a study on how long emotions usually last, and sadness is usually the most longest, and it lasts for like about 5 days per person, per trigger. Because in sadness, it's so easy to just re-trigger yourself so many times, because you can just reimagine that moment that caused you sadness in the first place, and it will just continuously persist in your body because you're constantly thinking about it. Hatred is for about 2 days. Joy, like 1 day and a half. And then fear, anger, or like other emotions that are usually in the moment last for about 30 minutes. Anxiety is about 1 hour. So basically the emotion that you feel is automatic, and there's nothing you can do about it. And for 90 seconds you will be feeling that emotion at the intense level that you would be feeling it. But then whatever happens after that is entirely up to you, which is kind of crazy to think about, and I feel very bad now that I know this information, because I'm not actually applying it in real life, and it's very bad. Because every time I feel something, I'm like, why am I choosing to feel this, or why am I choosing to extend this emotion? And like, what can I do in this moment to not extend this emotion? And I kind of know these tricks now because I studied for this video, but I'm not actually doing it that much. So my point is that just knowing these tricks, or just knowing these techniques that you can apply that I'm gonna share with you today, it's gonna help to some extent because you're gonna be more aware of your emotions, but it's not gonna help to the extent in which it will help you cease that emotion's existence after 90 seconds if you don't actively try to, and if you don't actively want to like go through the pain of doing that, because it's kind of painful. Because even like, I don't know, it's so weird because sadness is actually comfortable to be in. Sadness is a very comfortable state to be in because you kind of don't need to do anything, because it's most of the time it's kind of reasonable to be sad. And it's easier to maintain than joy, because it's very easy to just constantly think about that thing that made us sad. And especially if something very bad happened, it's very comfortable, although you wouldn't realize that it's comfortable. Like, it's very counterintuitive, but it's very comfortable to stay in that sadness state all the time. And at some point you get used to it. So one thing you can do is break this thought emotion loop by changing either your state of your body or the room you're in, the environment you're in, or like anything that basically surrounds you. So what you can do is just stand up and like do some jumping jacks for like 5 minutes, or just jump for 5 minutes, or I don't know, take a cold shower, put some cold water on your face. You can even stretch for a little bit. If you're sitting down, you can go, I don't know, walk outside. The context you're in allows you to. Going outside, going in the sunlight, going even at night, like changing your environment is very important, because then the things that usually trigger that thought or like trigger the mental process of reviving that emotion is usually associated with some physical object in your room or some I don't know, physical position that you're holding. So when you change that, you basically take away some of the triggers that could have possibly triggered you to think constantly about that emotion. And also, if you do some sort of physical activity that is a little harder than the mental activity that you're doing, so for example, if you exercise and you do some like very hard movements, or like if you highly concentrate on something that you're doing physically, then that physical process takes away the basically mental process that your brain was previously thinking about. So now you're in a survival mode, so you have to think about this thing. So it basically pauses the whatever thought process that you had in your brain before. And also moving calmly and moving basically with your own control, not sitting down or like staying stiff in one place, signals to your brain that you're not in immediate danger, or you don't need to, I don't know, be fully protected for your mind and be in this constant loop. Because your brain thinks that it's protecting yourself from some sort of danger that will kill you, literally, if you don't stay in this loop constantly and if you don't think about this constantly. Because evolutionary psychology is so shitty. One thing that actually works, and I've been trying this for a long time, like 3 years, and I didn't realize this is actually a thing that people use. Like I thought it was something that I imagined and that I created in my head. Having a stop action, or a stop thinking, stop feeling action. Maybe not stop feeling, but definitely stop thinking. So in Romanian culture, we have this thing where we knock on wood 3 times, and when we do this, that means that the thing that we just heard or the thing that we just thought is not gonna happen to us. And when I was 16, basically accidentally associated this like trigger, knocking 3 times on literally anything, with not thinking about the thing. So every time I had a thought and I did not want to have that thought, or like I thought about something bad that could happen in the future or whatever, I would just knock 3 times and that thought would disappear. And it's actually working wonders. Like not necessarily for stopping emotions, but for stopping something that you're thinking about. If you just knock 3 times, or like you have any sort of other kind of like physical thing that you're doing, or even mental thing that you're doing, but I think physical is more helpful, then you can literally train your brain to stop thinking about the thing. And the more you do it, the more you get basically used to it. And by this point, I do it every single time I have a thought that I don't want to have in my brain. I don't know if it's always healthy, but it's definitely helping me focus when I'm distracted, or sometimes not think so much about stuff. Like I haven't been overthinking in 4 years, and I didn't really realize that this is some sort of a correlation, but I can see the link very easily now, because every time I would overthink, I would just knock on wood or knock on my hand 3 times, and that thought would just break apart and I would start doing something else. Another thing you can do is detach yourself from your emotion, or detach yourself from like what you're feeling and thinking. So for example, if you're thinking that, oh, nobody likes me, which if you're thinking that, trust me, it's not true. I still believe that unconsciously, and trust me, it is definitely not true. No matter who you are, people do like you. So instead of saying nobody likes me, you can say I'm noticing that nobody likes me, or I'm noticing that things aren't working the way I wanted to, or I'm noticing that I'm not exactly the person that I wish to be, I don't know, usually in my life. When you do this and you realize that your thoughts are not actually something real, and that you don't necessarily need to associate yourself with it, and you don't necessarily need to be like, I am feeling this. You can say, oh, I can see that I'm feeling this, or I can see that my body is feeling this. Especially when you add my body, you kind of detach yourself from that thought, and it becomes very, very small and very, very... It's like some people usually watch themselves from like a third perspective like view from... I used to do that, but I heard other people do that too. From like somewhere up. Basically, you see yourself in the context and you realize that, oh, look how small I am in this context, and look how small the thing that is happening to me is generally. Like even a super big thing that is happening in your life, if you look from a third person perspective, you can see that a lot of people go through that, maybe at that exact moment that you're feeling it too. And although it may change your life to some extent, it's not like the end of the world. It kind of makes you realize that your thoughts and this reality that you're experiencing is just mostly mental, and it's not really that real, even though we do perceive it as a reality. Another thing that is so helpful, and oh my god, every time I do this, I feel so much better, like 10 times, 100 times better, and I never am stuck in that emotion. But I so rarely do this, and now that I read about this, I want to do it so much more. So there's this concept of parking your thoughts. So basically, like a car, put it in them, like basically at stop somewhere. And how to do this is like to create a either a worry journal, or just like by journaling, or just in your notes app in your phone. The most effective is when you actually write it on paper and you put it down somewhere, or even you throw it away. Like, you know, a lot of people throw like away their thoughts or like ideas, like they write it on a paper and then they scramble it and then they throw it away. That's very important, because you're taking a thought, you're making it real, and then you're throwing away. And the act of throwing away, it signals to your brain that that thing is not attached to you anymore, and that things, you don't need it anymore. But even if you just have a worry journal, it's important to also keep them, because afterwards, after you write, every time you feel like something is, I don't know, wrong, or like you feel sad, or like you feel like it's the end of the world, you write it down, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna think about this tomorrow. I don't need to think about this today, I can think about this tomorrow. And then tomorrow, if you're actually rereading that, you're gonna realize that even if one day passed, it's not that big of a deal. Like, if you look over all of them at the end of the year or at the end of the month, and you see all of your worries, you realize that some of the worries that you had, especially those that are more into the past, they literally don't mean much to you right now. And even if that thing happened to you, then right now you're not that much impacted by it as you would have thought you would be. And realizing that makes you realize that every single worry that you have, future you will not care about it as much as you care about it right now. But you care about it so much right now because you think into the future too. So it's like a misalignment, because you overestimate how much it's gonna impact you, but then your actual future self underestimates. So you overestimate how much that it will impact you, but the reality is just like somewhere here. If you're more of a actionable person and you actually want to do stuff to solve your problem, not like constantly think about it, like you actually want an actionable step to do towards this thing, you like to see progress, you can ask yourself, like, what small action can I do right now? And this is actually a technique, and you can pick the smallest action that will get you to do something towards this problem. For example, if you're feeling lonely right now, you can send one message to someone, maybe that you're close with, or like just a random person. Or if you're stressed about work and you're like procrastinating, but then you're stressed, and you start having anxiety, then you can start by just organizing your desk, or just writing down like 3 things that you have to do, like a to-do list. If you feel overwhelmed, you can do a 2-minute meditation or 3-minute meditation, or just take some deep breaths and drink some water. I do have 5 more techniques that I can share with you, and that I don't necessarily use that much in my personal life right now, but they are widely used by a lot of people and they are proven to work. I don't want to make this video super long, so thank you for watching, and if you want to hear more of the techniques, then you can comment down below and then make a video about it. Have the best day of your life, and reminder, your emotions do not define you. They're only 90 seconds, literally, and they're just hormones. You are fighting with hormones. Have the best day of your life. Love you guys.